morning. I'd like to talk a few slides about the Brazilian market. I will move away from the theoretical aspects of Internet of Things, and I will land on a common ground, trying to tell you what we have been able to do in the initiative, private initiative in Brazil. So with very concrete examples. Standards, for our sake, are good. We have very basic standards on tags and readers, and they are enough for us to launch a very good set of interesting applications. Tags, we are also okay now, after several years of developing worldwide new interesting tags. I see that today we have a good offer in Brazil. I'm always talking about Brazil, okay? Even though very specific process-driven tags are still missing. I'll talk about that later. Readers. We have all the major readers providers and manufacturers in Brazil, Motorola, Intermec, Impinj, ThinkMesh. So this is not a problem as well. Printers, Datamax and Zebra are represented and supported in Brazil. This is not a problem. Middleware is a key issue, has ever been a key issue. Middleware is that layer where the performance is very affected and can be a really bottleneck of the whole system. We are good on that also. After several years of developing and importing software and understanding how they work, we have several companies in Brazil that have developed already very good middlewares, RFID middlewares. So we can really interface those physical layers to the ERPs without much problem. And process knowledge. We can never install a new technology over old process. So we have to know how to adapt them, how to modify them, and these a lot of companies can do this in Brazil already. Cost is a big problem, but fortunately they have dipped down in the past years. We have a big problem in Brazil, most of you know, maybe not our European guys. We have about 80-90% tax over FOB prices when we import electronic goods in Brazil. This does mean that a 3,000 euros or dollars terminal arrives in Brazil for $5,700. So it's a lot. And there's no easy way of going around that. This presents us an enormous challenge on the ROI. It's much more difficult to make the ROI concept making sense. Even though some Brazilian companies are beginning to manufacture in Brazil tags, antennas, portals, and readers. And this is giving us products with cheaper costs. This has been happening 2-3 years from now. So we have Brazilian value-added components with smaller costs in Brazil. With all of that, this scenario has enabled us to have in Brazil today several different cases in all major vertical markets because of this whole maturity of the market. I will go away very quickly to some typical examples. Manufacturing. HP has done a very nice implementation. I think all of you know about that in manufacturing. SBM has a working process automation where they track big parts of metal to build chips for Petrobras. Unilever has a automation on the end of the manufacturing line, tracking finished goods. Technicolor, although its names leads us to think about other market niches, they are a modern manufacturer, electronics modern manufacturer. And they have a working process for boards and electronic components flow. CSN has a process for tracking their hot iron wagons through a big manufacturing plant, a big yard. It's a spread manufacturing plant. And they have to track those wagons through the process. NGM has a process of sequencing the engines to go from one part of the plant to another, not to control what are the configurations of each engine. Asset tracking. Globo, Bradesco, both have traditional fixed asset trackings, tracking documents and electronic components. Albert Einstein does track some critical equipment, but mainly they monitor freezers, critical temperatures on critical items, drugs. ConstruCap does also fixed asset tracking on equipment they lease. Operation. CIMIC does a yard management application in a big yard in Belo Horizonte, where they track vehicles and trucks over some big controlled areas inside their warehouse facility. MRS has also yard management controlling wagons through their routing logistics. And Canon controls copier machines, critical parts on copier machines that are leased to their customers. When they are leased, they have portals that read those copiers, and when they are serviced, those critical parts can be checked. When they are sent back, those critical parts can be checked again. Logistics. Magazine Luiza has a order and shipping application where they check pallets and big electronic appliances, RFID tagged through the shipping docks and through their trucks. The Brazilian Air Force has two different interest applications, I think you know also. One of them controlling a automated warehouse with big trans elevators linked with RFID portals. So before being picked by the trans elevators, they are checked by the RFID portals to see if each box has the correct content inside the box before being picked and put away on the high shelves. And another application is in Washington and Rio de Janeiro, where we enable them to read supplies they buy in the US. They are RFID tagged and shipped from US to Rio de Janeiro, going through portals and through RFID enabled terminals. Brazilian Army, I think you also know they receive and ship supplies. CBC, they use RFID to control their armored vests. It's a critical item for them. So they are stocked and shipped with RFID controlling. And Votorantim use RFID for material auditing. When we began when we designed the RFID structure and idea in 2000 standards in 2002, the first idea was to address the whole supply chain. And if you realize that none of those applications do address the whole supply chain. We all know that addressing the whole supply chain gives us huge benefits, really huge. And that's why the whole idea was conceived, to give us huge benefits when we do that. We will cut costs, we will cut inventories, we will increase visibility. That's the key words, to increase visibility. But the challenge to enable, to electrify the whole supply chain is very big. There are several players involved with different interests, different agendas, some hidden agendas, different timing, different maturity. So it's very hard to make all of them work at the same time to enable us to have this jointly huge benefit. So how do we overcome this? those 6 examples are Brazilian initiatives trying to develop a national application on RFID. I think all of you know the CNIAV regarding vehicle identification, Brazil ID for tracking, SIMRAB for vehicle also, Anvisa for drug tracking, and SISBOF for livestock tracking. All of them are not close to the final yet, because they do face those type of problems I was talking about. Let's take CNIAB for just for a quick example. It began 4 years ago, I think, with a very smart idea of controlling the traffic, of managing the traffic in the São Paulo city.